Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gann, alongside my partner, Jack Nicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. Another chance, go check out our website, justsayingfootball.com. Follow us on Instagram at justsaying, no GWJS, for article and video updates. Don't forget to get us in your ears on Spotify and check out the Discord for all of our bets at Just Saying Football as well. Week 10's in the books, Week 11's here, season's moving fast. How you feeling?
Double-digit weeks. It's getting real. We are 7 games left for most teams right now. This is, we got 4 weeks left in the fantasy championship, till the fantasy playoffs. So we got a lot to go over. The games are definitely thinning out, as we were talking about off camera, Sean. We got a couple teams on bye this week, a few news and notes, and, we got 5-6 games of the week maybe for you, so get ready for it.
Yep, let's jump right into it with our news and notes. First, right off the bat, Shane Waldron was fired as the offensive coordinator for the Bears. Trevor Lawrence is still dealing with that AC shoulder injury. Najee Harris is dealing with an ankle injury. He's considered day-to-day. Brian Robinson is dealing with a hamstring injury. That was a game-time decision last week, but he could play this week. Aaron Jones is dealing with a rib injury, but is trending towards playing this weekend. Isaiah Pacheco is set to return to practice on Wednesday, which is huge for undefeated Chiefs. DK Metcalf should also return to practice on Wednesday. Keon Coleman has already been ruled out for this week's matchup against the Chiefs. Dalton Kincaid also injured his knee, but is not considered serious. They just want to make sure that he's good, though. T. Higgins is dealing with a quad injury. He's not going to suit up for this one. Orlando Brown Jr. is dealing with a fibula injury. He's still undecided. And then just some news that broke a little bit ago, like half an hour. Somebody broke into Patrick Mahomes' house and Travis Kelce's house, so a lot of weird stuff happening out there, I guess, at the moment.
Surprised to see that is weird. Yeah, and hopefully everything is okay for them. I know, especially with Mahomes, he has kids, a wife. That's right. That is crazy stuff. And I mean, it's just we're getting to the point, man. I mean, they won off that incredible blocked kick last week, and that's all I can think about with the Chiefs right now.
It's pretty impressive. Let's get into our blowout games. We have an NFC North matchup, and the Green Bay Packers made their way to Chicago to take on the Bears. Packers favored this by -6.5 with an over-under here of 41. I'm locking in the Packers right off the bat. History dictates that they usually win these games, but just the way that their defense is playing, and then the way that the Bears' offense has looked, it has given a lot of confidence to their young quarterback. This is a good firing, I think, for them, but still there's a lot to change that's going to happen against a good defense.
Yeah, the Bears, there are reports that the veterans are going after Caleb, wanting to bench. I don't know what they want anyone to do here. I think it was Shane Waldron. He had to go. You can talk to a lot of those Bears fans. The Packers this week, primed off the bye. Jordan Love kind of needed a little more rest on his injury. Give me them, and give me a Josh Jacobs big game, as well as a big game for Jaden Reed. I think these are perfect matchups for them in fantasy this week.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more. All right, let's keep this moving along. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars make their way to Detroit to take on the Lions. Lions favored this by -13 with an over-under here of 47. Now, obviously, they're coming off of that thrilling win against the Texans, 5 interceptions. They still come back and they win it in the second half. Jacksonville, a lot of turnovers last week as well against the Vikings. Probably going to be Mac Jones. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, Mac Jones almost got that win last week, and the Detroit Lions got their first test last week, trying to come back. They did come back against the Texans. Great offense. The Texans scored 23 in the first half. Defense really came back. They're going to ride that wave into this. I think it's not going to be a good game for Mac Jones. And Jared Goff definitely has to play clean after those 5 interceptions. The Lions at 13. This is a scary blowout game I would stay away and keep my money away from. 13 is a little too crazy for the NFL. But the Jaguars suck.
Yeah, the Jaguars haven't played very well. I'm locking in the Lions without question. They played, despite a terrible game offensively by Jared Goff, they still played a way to find a way to win. Their next few games, they get Jaguars, that should be a win. Colts, That should be a win. Bears, that should probably be a win. All of a sudden, we're looking at an 11-1 Detroit Lions team before they face the Packers. Great season for them. Super Bowl favorites, I think, at the moment. But keeping this moving right along, we have the Las Vegas Raiders making their way to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Dolphins favor this by -7.5. Over under here of, I forgot to write it down, but probably in the 30. I think it was 39.5. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, so with this, I'm looking at, the Raiders, they just are one team we know just doesn't really have it figured out right now. Miami, they look to get a little bit, kind of working with Tyreek Hill's wrist injury last week. Looking at it right now, this is a 40. No, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. But basically, I'm expecting no matter what from Miami to cover that 7.5. I think that they got Achane working. He had a lower game than I had predicted. I said he was going to get over the 57.5. But this is an easy game, I think, here. That's why it's in the blowouts for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I think it's time for them to get going. We saw a great game from them defensively by Calais Campbell, Jalen Ramsey, all these guys, despite some of the injuries that they have. They showed up big when they needed them to, getting turnovers, making big stops, not allowing the Rams to score a touchdown on Monday Night Football. They're looking better offensively, obviously, under Tua. Let's see if they can get going against an easy team, and they get the home crowd behind them. I'm liking them for this one. I'll take the over on that as well. Monday Night Football, Battle of Texas, when the Houston Texans made their way to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Texans are favored this one, -7.5, over under here at 42. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, when the schedule makers anticipated to make this game the Battle of Texas, they did not expect Dak Prescott to be out for the season. Huge blow to them. You could see it definitely affected their offense last week. But Houston, last week, their defense looked good, obviously. 5 picks on Goff. Huge kind of blown lead. As much credit we give to Detroit, we got to give that blame to Houston. They're going to try to get it right again. But Monday Night Football, Stroud has been struggling, especially with Kenyon Green out.
Yeah, we saw it last week. They had a really hot first half, really cold second half. They got to keep the gas pedal going. They have a good defense, so I expect them to completely shut down Cooper Kupp. I don't know what my hair is doing right now. To completely shut down Cooper Kupp, quite honestly, and I don't think that they can really get going. At one point during the game, the announcers talked about it. They only averaged under 4 yards per pass attempt. That's not what you want to see. I'm curious if they do anything with Trey Lance. It's hard to label him a bust with only 8 games in a 4-year, 5-year career.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's you got to at least put him out there, see what they can do, see if they can get something going, because you do have CeeDee Lamb. But I'm liking Houston in this one. I just think they're the better team overall, and I'll go with that. Moving this along, we have... Thank you. Moving this along, we have an NFC West showdown when the Seattle Seahawks made their way to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. 49ers favored this one -6.5, over on here 49.5. Jake Moody missed 3 field goals, but he got the one that mattered for the win. Christian McCaffrey was back in this one. What are your thoughts about this game? Seattle, kind of good, kind of bad. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Yeah, hopefully, we love watching teams come off the bye weeks and try to make those adjustments. They get a late one here, so hopefully, not traveling too far, division opponent on the road. This has upset all over it, but the San Francisco 49ers, they're one more week into this healthy McCaffrey that they're going to have for the rest of the year. Definitely was involved a lot in the receiving game, which has been an issue for the Seattle Seahawks this year against running back receptions. So I will take San Francisco here at home, 6.5. I think they play the Seattle Seahawks a lot better at home than they do on the road.
Yeah, the way that I'm seeing this is their offense is only going to get better and better. I'm curious to see if Ricky Pearsall can become a consistent wide receiver for them and sort of step into that Brandon Ayuk role. You do have Kittle and you do have Deebo Samuel that will take up some defensive backs for you and some of those linebackers. Now you get Christian McCaffrey in here. It's going to open up a lot more opportunities from him, so I'm curious if he can take that opportunity. Christian McCaffrey's in this offense. This is going to be much better. I feel like this entire team gets elevated with his presence in here. I expect the workload, we talked about this a little bit off screen, and you mentioned it, his workload's only going to go up. I'm liking the 49ers in this one without question. Moving this right along, into our meh categories, Indianapolis Colts making their way to New York to take on the Jets. Jets are favored this one -4, over under here at 44. Anything to be excited about here?
Not too many things. Aaron Rodgers, we were talking about him. I know Sean Z has, an opinion today of him with his McCaffrey appearance for sure. But obviously, at a face value, the Jets 3-7, not what they expected this year through 10 games. Indianapolis still, are they, dealing with this Flacco that we've seen, who ever since been named the starter is a turnover machine. This is, I think, a good game for the Jets. They had this flex from 8:20 to 1 p.m. The fans are going to be out there. It's going to be a good game. JT last week, 114 yards, and he could not get any. They just still can't get anything going. So what is wrong with Indianapolis?
I mean, they're dealing with some injuries on the offense, which I think is what's hurting them ultimately. And Joe Flacco's good, but he's not great. And And I think that's what you're seeing right now is that this is as far as the offense can maybe go with him. He doesn't have that speed that you kind of need now currently to move and extend plays. He's a little bit older. He's like 38 plus.
Yeah.
I like this for a Jets win. I think that this is like a perfect setup for them. My only issue with Aaron Rodgers on the McAfee show was that I couldn't buy his acting at all. He's like, we're 3-7, but we still have a chance to make the playoffs if all these things go right and we do the little things. And it just didn't. I couldn't buy into that whatsoever, and so it's hard for me to see right now if the locker room's buying into that. And I think ultimately, and we talk about this all the time in our fantasy chat, it just seems like he's 40. He's coming off this Achilles injury. He just doesn't look like he can do it anymore, and that's the reality. And so it's curious to see what's going on because he has a serious contract situation with the Jets. And I mean.
If they win this weekend, they have a 22% playoff chance. If they lose, they have a 3% chance for the Jets. And right now, they have a 15% chance, just as it stands.
Not great. Let's keep this moving along. So we have the Los Angeles Rams making their way to New England to take on the Patriots. Rams are favored this by -5 over under here at 44. Then the Patriots were all over the Bears last week. 9 sacks. They had 16 coming into the game. Then they get 9. It was unbelievable. I think it was like the third time. It tied like their team record at 9 and the third time in NFL history that they had done that as the Patriots. That being said, I'm liking the Rams in this one. I like Puka. I like Cooper Kupp. I like what we're seeing on Kieran Williams. We didn't like the slowdowns in the red zone and the sacks that they were giving up. That's because they keep having this makeshift offensive line. I think they can fix it here. They're facing up against a rookie quarterback. I really like them in this one.
Yeah, this I expect to be a big Kyren Williams game. We didn't see as much. I know, Sean, you had over 85.5 or 95.5 for receiving and rushing. He got a little more involved in the passing game, but it's going to be Puka and Kupp going forward. The Rams, they win this game. They're 5-5, and they're going to need that to stay in the NFC West race. So give me the Rams as well.
I like that. All right, let's keep this moving along. So we have the Cleveland Browns making their way to New Orleans, take on the Saints. Saints favoring this one by -1. Over under here, 44.5. That means that Vegas doesn't even know. What are your thoughts on this one? Little bit of MVS show out last week.
Yeah, big MVS show out. I haven't seen a game from him like that since he was playing with Rodgers, ironically, as we've been talking about him. But, 3 for 109 and 2 last week. Definitely somebody that, you could look at if you're, kind of in a late fantasy bind. On the Browns side, Nick Chubb, hopefully he continues to get better. We've seen Jameis, who's now playing his old team in the Saints. But the Saints at home, hard to bet against. And, they're riding the wave from last week, so I like that.
I'm just going to go with the Browns to defer from you. We've been picking the same teams.
Sure.
I think there's an opportunity. The Browns still do have a good defense. They got Myles Garrett. There's an opportunity here for this offense to maybe find some rhythm here and there with Nick Chubb getting healthier and healthier and everything continuing in his progression to get there. Not the best matchup, though. Not the game that you're necessarily tuning into unless you have, like, Alvin Kamara in this one for fantasy reasons.
Yeah.
Moving this right along, we got my Minnesota Vikings making their way to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Vikings are favored this by -6 over under here of 39.5. As always, you get the floor first because I monologue too much with this team.
Yeah, 39.5. Definitely a reflection of the Vikings not scoring a touchdown or the Tennessee Titans just in general right now. Calvin Ridley definitely had a freaking game last week. He had the first touchdown. It was a huge one. I believe he had 2 on the day. Definitely a bright spot for them going forward, but a lot of the Titans are very frustrated, 2-7, not what they expected this year. Vikings 7-2, looking great on the other side. I would take them for sure 6 on the road. I would be shocked if this line, I know this episode will release on Wednesday, I'd be shocked that by the weekend we don't get news that this would go any bigger. So take it at 6.
Yeah, I like. I don't know if I like us at 6. I like us to maybe take the win, so I'm going to lock in the Vikings. I think that Justin Jefferson has a big week coming off of that one. There were 3 interceptions that were all in his direction. One thing I do want to say about that, I thought that first interception was pass interference, and not Viking bias here, but I thought that second interception did hit the ground. It's neither here nor there. We ultimately got the win because of the defense. The defense came up late with 3 turnovers in the second half, which was really impressive, including an impressive Ken Bynum ray gun celebration that we got, which was incredible. do just want to say about the Titans, they have a great pass defense. They're the number one in the league. They're only letting up 156 passing yards a game this season, and they're allowing the least amount of yards per game, only 237. The Vikings struggled last week. 30-plus plays in the Jaguars' red zone, 400 total offensive yards, and they only got 12 points out of it. You will not win games, especially in your own division when you got the Packers and the Lions there, let alone the NFC or the rest of it.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit worried. JJ got his first touchdown against them. He went off against them in his rookie season. But it feels like a trap game. Let's see how Sam Darnold bounces back. Moving this along, games of the week, and we finally have a good Thursday night football matchup, everybody. Washington Commanders going to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. Eagles are favored this by -3.5 with an over-under here of 48.5. Eagles with a huge win over the Cowboys. Commanders with a brutal loss to the Steelers. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is finally a good TNF game. This is going to be a battle of two quarterbacks. They're going to be seeing each other twice a year for the next couple of years. Big games last week from Terry and A.J. Brown on both sides. You got number one receivers there. Brown 5 for 109 last week, and despite the loss, Terry still had 5 for 113. I think this is a big bounce back game for Washington. Hopefully they get Brian Robinson Jr. back. Eckler 2 touchdowns last week. I think that they're finally figuring out everything that they need to be successful this year. But on the other hand, you do have Saquon Barkley, you have AJ, as I mentioned, and Jalen Hurts with 8 rushing touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. I don't know why they keep giving out Jalen Hurts anytime touchdowns at positive money, but if you do that, just keep going.
Honestly, I think they just like to do that just for fun. And what I will say about this Eagles team that I've really enjoyed, and I think will be a big challenge on the road for Washington, which is going to be big. They're going to get this Philadelphia crowd. This will be the first time Jaden Daniels experienced that. Philadelphia crowd is very different from any other crowd out there, including Boston and New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm liking Philly for this one. I think that they're finding their way. Finally, offensively, a little bit better here and there. I'm really liking that. And I do think that what we've seen out of Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean is a mass improvement for the secondary, especially compared to last season.
Lockdown corners. They just got 2 Georgia defensive tackles back-to-back, too.
It's insane. And they got some linebackers, shout out some of those linebackers that also were there.
Jacoby Dean, huge interception last week.
Nolan Smith Jr. showing up. So I like Eagles in this one. Also, some huge implications. These two teams play each other one more time after this. Washington, with the loss last week, allowed the Eagles to take over first in the division. Winner of this game now takes over the East. So there's a lot on the line here as you begin to think of the playoffs, and that becomes home field advantage when you win your division. So keep that in mind, everybody. Moving this along in our games of the week, we have the Baltimore Ravens making their way to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Ravens are favored in this one by -3 with an over-under here of 48.5. What are your thoughts on this one? 1 p.m. game. Feel like it should be like a Sunday night football game, but it's not.
Yeah, too many good games this week for them to choose from, and this was definitely one that could have been an SNF. Baltimore and the Steelers, they have one of the best rivalries in the whole NFL. It's always a hard-hitting matchup. I kind of want to take the under at 48.5. These offenses weren't absolutely freaking booming. You got Russell Wilson the last couple of weeks just having a good game, just winning. George Pickens, huge touchdown. Najee's looking good. On the other hand, you have the Ravens where, you have last week they came into an absolute shootout with the Bengals, winning by 1 point, going all the way to the end, stopping them on the 2-point conversion. This is going to be a very tight game. I think the Steelers at home, this is the divisional matchup that the Ravens lose. We almost got it last week, but this is the week, and the Steelers could take control of the AFC North. That is going to be a great story for Baltimore down the line for them to do that. But yeah, I'm taking the Steelers this week. I got a good feeling about them.
I'll take Baltimore mainly to go opposite of you. I do want to shout out Steelers. His defense is great, and the throw from Wilson for the game-winning touchdown was incredible. That slight move to the left, Mike Williams, it was great. They got the one-on-one coverage that they were looking for, and he did have an under route that was open to Freiermuth there for the first down as well, but he opted for the touchdown because he got the coverage. He's been throwing dimes, absolute dimes. George Pickens getting involved, so this will be a tough matchup for the Baltimore Ravens, I think, because this secondary is bleeding yards. Kyle Hamilton has an ankle injury. That's something that you got to be a little bit worried about whether or not he's going to suit up for this game. That's an opportunity for them to feast. I am going to go with them, despite the 2-4 record that Lamar Jackson has career against the Steelers. I think that their offense is getting going. I think what we're going to see is a lot of Derrick Henry. And I just expect that they're at that level where you have to win these games. You got to win every single one. You're kind of, do we think that they're better than the Chiefs? I kind of think so.
I think that they are. They are still my pick. I still think if they get him this year, but you can never, hell has no fury like a division opponent.
Yeah, but this is a good matchup for Russ. I like him if you have a quick stream start. Or honestly, if you're maybe looking at a quarterback for rest of season, just considering how they've been able to play. I think he's elevated the Steelers' offense, so you can lay to rest whatever conundrums you might have had over Justin Fields v. Russell Wilson and what you need. Also, $1.5 million that the Steelers are paying him. That's nothing. They're winning right now. They're fine. And same with Justin Fields. Moving this along, Atlanta Falcons making their way to Denver to take on the Broncos. Broncos are favoring this by -2.5, over under here at 44. The Broncos were a blocked field goal away from winning. It felt like they were about to. Falcons couldn't get the ball moving really to get that win there towards the end, despite the late game surges. How are you feeling?
Yeah, if they do win that game against the Chiefs last week, then we're looking at 2 6-4 teams playing each other in Denver. I'm going to expect a lot of work out of Bijan Robinson. He had a 2-touchdown game last week. I know I talk about him all the time, but in Denver, it's not an easy place to play when you start to get to this time in the season if you're not used to being in that altitude. And they're going to have to run the ball a lot. You can't have Kirk Cousins out there passing 50 times a game in this one. But I think this is a great matchup for Mooney since London will probably be covered by Pat Surtain. So I think that this is an interesting matchup for Atlanta on the road. I've been liking the weird interconference on the road dogs this week. So I'm down with the Falcons this week.
I'm liking the Broncos. They're 7th against the rush, they're 13th against the pass, and they're 10th in total defensive yards. What we're seeing time and time again over the last few years since Peyton Manning's left is that this defense is great. Great. And honestly, Bo Nix, I think if Jaden Daniels wasn't having the electric season that he was having with this team, and he wasn't doing so much better with the Commanders than anyone was anticipating, that I think there's a way for him to be the offensive rookie of the year. So I like what the Denver Broncos are doing. I thought the matchup last week against the Chiefs is tough. You're in Chiefs Kingdom. They have a great defense. They're led by this defense. You got a rookie quarterback. They got off to a hot start, and it just didn't go their way. And that's how these games have a tendency to go sometimes. I like Denver in this one. They'll get the home crowd. I just think that will be a big boost for them. And what we've seen from the Falcons sometimes is sometimes they're really great. Other times they have a tendency to struggle. I think this defense can lead the Broncos. Moving this right along, arguably the best game of the week, Kansas City Chiefs making their way to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills are favoring this by -2.5 with an over-under here 45.5. How are you feeling in this one?
How is this one not Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football? When I'm looking at this, it's an interesting one. We got two teams that, it seems like for the last 5 years have been competing late in the playoffs and, especially for the AFC championships. The Bills 8-2, just because they're undefeated, we can't be discounting them. But Mahomes as an underdog, for me, I feel like it always does good. I believe now after winning last year against the Ravens, he is 11-1. So I will take the Kansas City Chiefs on the road as a dog. But you got to shout out Josh Allen. We were talking about it, Sean. He could be in the MVP conversation way more than Mahomes, even though Mahomes is undefeated.
I think if it's not Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen as like your 1-2, Lamar Jackson being the 1.
Yeah. Look, if Jared Goff wins 15 games this year, he's in the conversation after that 5-pick game.
Yeah, but you got to win a 15, and that 5-pick game will linger on in people's minds for a long time. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is playing at an MVP level. I don't think this team is playing at their usual standard, but they're finding ways to win.
Yeah, Buffalo the defense wins 4th in yards.
Yeah, allowed. Buffalo Buffalo plays well against Kansas City during the regular season. They have a tendency to not win in the playoffs. I'm locking in Buffalo. This is going to feel like a playoff game. We know Bills Mafia. We've been to that game. It's going to be electric. The crowd is going to be there. They know what's going to be at stake in this one. And you know whoever wins this game, they're going to be saying this is the best team in the AFC. This is the best team in the AFC, et cetera, because that's how this competition always goes. I like the Bills in this one. I like them at home. They should be getting some of their guys back, especially Amari Cooper and Dalton Kincaid, which is going to be great for them. It sucks that Keon Coleman won't be available for this one, but let's see as the season continues because he'll be a huge impact on this team. Moving this right along into our last game of the week in Sunday Night Football, Cincinnati Bengals making their way to LA to take on the Chargers. Chargers are favored this by -1.5. Over under here 47. What are your thoughts?
I mean, the Chargers, they are looking good. Last week, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, both double-digit carries, both over 50 yards rushing. I think they're going to start riding that wave as we get into December, especially the little West Coast stuff going on. Jamar Chase last week, biggest game we've seen, not from him, but definitely in this season, 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, even though they lost, which is just unbelievable still. So I think the Bengals are kind of out for blood this week. The Chargers, they did really well last week against the Titans. Justin Herbert finally using his legs. Jim Harbaugh was saying he's going to start calling him Beast. That's an awesome nickname. But I do think that, Joe Burrow on the other side too, it's a great opportunity. I will take the Chargers in this one just because the Bengals this year have come up short in a lot of games for me. And with the 1.5, it could go either way.
I'm going to take the Bengals in this one. They've taken a lot of losses this season. It's not what they were expecting. Obviously, everybody has Super Bowl expectations. They took a brutal loss to the Ravens last week, and I do think that Joe Burrow would be in this MVP conversation if they didn't have the record that they have now at 4-6. And it's crazy because I think that at the time no one was saying in the offseason that the Chargers would be at 6 wins. The fact that they're at 6 wins, that they in the playoffs essentially if they ended today, that they're second in the AFC West. When the Chiefs are undefeated and that they're having this kind of caliber of season, it's unexpected. What Herbert is missing right now is offensive playmakers more than anything. I think he's managing the ball much better than he ever has. I think that anybody that was worried about that contract should not be worried about it because I think that him and Harbaugh are a match made in heaven. Yeah. And that he's much more comfortable in this system. He's not forcing the ball anywhere. He's taking what the defense is giving him. And I think he's seeing the field a little bit better. And this is the benefit that you get from a former quarterback, and a quarterback coach kind of guy. I do like the Bengals in this one. They've taken a lot of losses. I just mentioned that. I'm going to lock them in. I think that Burrow and Chase will continue to thrive despite no T. Higgins. Let's see if Chase Brown get a little bit more involved in this one. As always, he was involved last week, but even more. Let's see if we can get that run their yards up over 50, see what they can do with that. But I like him for this one. That's it, man. That's all the time that we got.
That's all the time we got, yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, everyone, for listening. It was a lot of games of the week. I loved it.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is an interesting week. A lot of implications for a lot of divisional opponents. So make sure you check out all of our bets on the Discord. We're going to have some great ones for you. Make sure to check this out, Just Saying Football on YouTube and Spotify. And get all of your notifications at Just Saying with no G, WJS on Instagram. And thank you guys for watching.
Enjoy.